And the Employee of the Year goes to Emma. Congratulations on your exceptional team spirit. The room erupted in applause as Emma bounced to the stage, her perfectly styled hair catching the light. Our boss handed her a small box with a white ribbon. She opened it, confusion washing over her face, until she pulled out a key fob with the unmistakable Tesla logo. "No way!" she screamed, jumping up and down. "A Tesla? Are you serious?" Our boss nodded, beaming like a proud father. "Model 3, white, just like you wanted." Just like she wanted. Of course he knew what she wanted. The crowd gasped and cheered louder as our boss led everyone outside, where a gleaming white Tesla sat in the parking lot with a giant red bow. Emma was practically hyperventilating as she circled it, trailing her manicured fingers along its pristine surface. I stood frozen, gripping my champagne so tightly I thought the glass might shatter. 3 years of bringing in our largest accounts. 3 years of working until midnight. 3 years of skipped weekends and canceled plans. My portfolio had increased company revenue by 42% this year alone. And now, our boss announced, returning to the podium, for our other top performer. The spotlight found me, and suddenly everyone was looking. I straightened my shoulders and forced a smile. This was my moment, finally. Ashley has been with us for 3 years now, and her contribution has been significant. Significant? I doubled our client base. He reached under the podium and pulled out a thin white envelope. "For you, Ashley. Thank you for your hard work." The envelope felt light between my fingers. I opened it slowly, aware of the watching eyes. Inside was a gift card, $100, to Starbucks. My name was scribbled in smudged ink, barely legible. The silence was deafening. Someone coughed. A few people exchanged glances. "Well?" my boss prompted. "Aren't you going to say something?" I looked up at him, then at Emma stroking her new Tesla through the window, then back at the gift card that wouldn't even cover a month of the coffee I bought while working late. "Thank you," I managed, my voice oddly steady despite the hurricane inside me. "It's exactly what I deserved." Nobody caught the edge in my voice. Nobody except Grace from accounting, who winced slightly. Our eyes met across the room, and in that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. I smiled, not the practiced, professional smile I'd perfected over the years. A different kind of smile, the kind that promises something is coming, something nobody sees yet, because they'd all learn soon enough that the most dangerous woman in the room isn't the one clutching keys to a new car. It's the one holding a worthless gift card who's finally seeing things clearly. And I was beginning to see very clearly indeed. Wait, before I continue this story of corporate betrayal and calculated vengeance, take a second to hit that like button if you've ever felt undervalued at work. Drop a comment about the worst recognition you've ever received. Subscribe to hear more stories that'll make your jaw drop. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. My name is Ashley Porter. I'm 32, detail-oriented to a fault, and until that night, I believed hard work and results were the currency of success. My mother raised me alone in a small apartment above the diner where she waited tables. "No one will hand you anything in this life," she'd say while soaking her swollen feet after double shifts. "You work twice as hard for half the credit." I'd thought things would be different for me. I'd gone to college on scholarships, graduated with honors, and landed a job at what seemed like the perfect company, a boutique marketing firm specializing in luxury hospitality clients. The kind of place where creativity and numbers were supposed to matter equally. When I started, there were 10 of us. By my 3rd year, we'd grown to nearly 50. With a downtown office and a reputation for turning struggling luxury properties into must-visit destinations. I'd been there 6 months when Emma arrived. She was hired as a junior account manager, same as me. We started friendly enough, lunched together occasionally, helping each other meet deadlines. Then things changed. The first time I noticed something off was during a presentation for the Wellington, a struggling historic hotel that needed rebranding. I'd spent weeks researching, creating concepts, and preparing financials. Emma had been assigned to assist. "I love what you've put together," she said the night before, flipping through my presentation. So thorough. The next morning, our boss came in late. Emma was already there, sitting in his usual spot at the head of the table. "I hope everyone's ready," she said. "I've been working on this day and night." Before I could react, she launched into my presentation. Slide by slide, my words, my ideas, my research. When she finished, our boss clapped his hands. "Excellent work, Emma. This is exactly the innovation we need." I I sat in stunned silence as she accepted the praise. After the meeting, I approached her privately. That was my presentation, I said quietly. She looked genuinely confused. What? No, I put that together myself. We probably just had similar ideas. My file was open on your computer last night. She laughed. Ashley, sweetie, don't be that person. Nobody likes an office drama queen. I was so shocked by her audacity that I didn't push further. A mistake. The first of many. Over the next 3 years, a pattern emerged. Emma took extended lunches with our boss, organized birthday parties for his children, always laughed the loudest at his jokes. Meanwhile, I put my head down and worked, brought in client after client, built relationships, generated revenue. The Wellington became our biggest success story, doubling its occupancy in 6 months. I created the strategy. Emma took the bows. When they featured it in a hospitality magazine, Emma was photographed beside our boss, both grinning in front of the hotel's grand entrance. Team effort, she said when I confronted her. We all played our part. I swallowed my frustration and focused on results. Surely, eventually, the numbers would speak for themselves. They didn't, and now here I was, holding a coffee gift card while Emma had car keys worth $80,000. Later that night, I sat in my apartment, staring at the gift card on my coffee table. My phone buzzed with a text from Grace. That was messed up. You okay? I wasn't okay, but I was done being a doormat. What happened next wasn't an emotional decision, though many would later assume it was. It was strategic, calculated, a chess player seeing 20 moves ahead. First, I pulled out my employment contract. When I'd been hired, I'd negotiated an unusual clause. If I chose to leave, I could maintain client contact for 30 days to ensure smooth transitions. The company lawyer had laughed. Nobody ever leaves voluntarily, he'd said. But sure, if it makes you feel better. That small clause was now my secret weapon. Second, I created a detailed inventory of every client I'd brought in, every campaign I'd created, every result I'd generated, with numbers, dates, and communications. I didn't sleep that night, but by morning, I had everything I needed. My plan was taking shape, and it would be beautiful in its simplicity. Monday morning, I arrived at work early, dressed in my most professional outfit. When my boss finally showed up at 10:30, I was waiting with an envelope. "What's this?" he asked, barely looking at me. "My resignation letter," I replied calmly. 2 weeks' notice, effective immediately. He glanced up, seemingly more annoyed than concerned. "Resignation? Because of the recognition thing? Don't be so sensitive." "Not at all," I said smoothly. "Family priorities. You understand." He shrugged. "Well, good luck with whatever." I'd expected more reaction, perhaps even a counteroffer, but he was already checking his phone, dismissing me from his thoughts. That was his first mistake. For the next 2 weeks, I was the model departing employee. I organized my files, trained my replacement, brought pastries on my last day. Everyone thought I was leaving with Grace, heading off to focus on some vague family matters. Even Emma seemed to buy it, giving me a perfunctory hug on my final day. "Keep in touch," she said, already turning back to her computer. I smiled. "Oh, I plan to stay very connected." She didn't catch my meaning. Nobody did. The moment I walked out those doors for the final time, I initiated phase 2. I sent handwritten notes to our 6 biggest clients, the ones I'd personally cultivated, whose business comprised nearly 60% of the company's annual revenue. The notes were simple, an invitation to a casual industry lunch the following week. No pressure, just a chance to catch up. That evening, my phone rang. My former boss's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Hello? Ashley, heard you're having a goodbye lunch with some of our clients. How thoughtful. Mind if I join?" His voice was casual, but I caught the edge of worry. "Actually," I replied sweetly, "it's more of a hello lunch. I'm starting my own business." There was silence, then sputtering. "You're… what? You can't. Those are our clients." I kept my voice level. "They're nobody's clients. They choose where to take their business. This is unethical. It's completely legal," I finished for him. "Check Section 12 of my employment agreement. I'm well within my rights to maintain contact during this transition period." He hung up without another word. The morning of the lunch, I woke with knots in my stomach. What if nobody showed? What if I'd misread my relationships with these clients? What if loyalty to the company prevailed? I arrived at the restaurant 30 minutes early, claimed the private room I'd reserved, and waited. Each minute felt like an hour. Then the door opened. Philip Henderson, owner of 3 luxury ski resorts and our oldest client, walked in. Then Mary Zhang from Ocean View Properties. Then the others, one by one. All 6 had come. As we settled in with drinks and appetizers, I felt a surge of confidence. Phase 2 was working perfectly. What I didn't know was that my former boss had his own plans in motion, plans that would test everything I thought I knew about business, loyalty, and justice. And the stakes were about to get much, much higher. I didn't pressure them at lunch. I simply laid out my vision, a boutique agency, providing the same expertise they'd come to value, but with more personalized attention, lower fees, and no corporate bloat. The truth is, I said, spreading my hands on the table, large agencies often end up charging premium rates to cover unnecessary overhead. Without fancy downtown offices and company cars to pay for, I can offer the same results at significantly better rates. Mary Zhang, who ran Ocean View Properties, leaned forward. And it would just be you handling our accounts? Initially, yes, I said, which means you'd have my undivided attention. As we grow, I'll only bring on people who meet my standards for both ethics and excellence. Philip Henderson, normally reserved and cautious, tapped his water glass thoughtfully. Your work on the Wellington revitalization was exceptional. We all know that campaign was your creation. I felt a rush of validation. They had known all along. Thank you, I said simply. The table fell quiet as dessert arrived. No one had explicitly committed yet. My heart pounded as I prepared my closing remarks. I'm not asking you to decide today, I concluded. Just remember me when your renewal comes up. Philip, who rarely spoke first in any gathering, cleared his throat. Why wait? I'm moving my business today. The others exchanged glances. Mary was next. Ocean View's contract renews next month anyway. Consider us on board. By the time the check arrived, all 6 had pledged to follow me. I maintained my composure, but inside I was soaring. As we walked out, Philip held back, touching my elbow gently. You should know, he said quietly. Your boss called me this morning, offered a 30% discount if I declined this lunch. My stomach dropped. And yet, you came. He smiled. Some things matter more than price, Ashley. Integrity is one of them. How? I hadn't anticipated my former boss would move so quickly, but it made sense. He wasn't stupid, just arrogant and short-sighted. Back in my apartment that evening, I allowed myself a small celebration. A glass of wine, a rare moment of pride. Phase 2 was complete. Then my phone exploded with notifications. First came the text from my former boss. Call me immediately. Then an email from Emma. What have you done? Then a voicemail from Grace. Holy crap, Ashley. The office is in chaos. Call me. I savored each message like a fine appetizer before the main course. Let them stew. Let them wonder. Let them feel what I'd felt. Powerless, confused, devalued. My phone rang again. My former boss. This time, I answered. 6 clients, Ashley? 6? Do you have any idea what you've done? I settled deeper into my couch. I believe I've started my own business with clients who value my work. You've destroyed 3 years of relationships. This is corporate sabotage. No, I corrected calmly. This is the free market at work. Clients choosing where they receive the best service. We'll sue you into oblivion, he snarled. I've already called our attorneys. I suggest they start by reading Section 12 of my employment agreement, I replied, particularly the client transition clause. The silence told me he was finally taking this seriously. Come back, he said, his tone suddenly conciliatory. Let's talk this through. Name your price. Any car you want. Tesla, Mercedes, whatever. I almost laughed. I already have what I want. Think about this, Ashley. You're one person. We're an established company with resources. You can't possibly service all these accounts alone. There it was, the first hint of doubt. Could I really pull this off alone? Watch me, I said, and ended the call. But after hanging up, I sat in the growing darkness of my apartment, worry creeping in. He wasn't entirely wrong. 6 major clients meant endless demands, constant attention, and more work than any single person could handle. Had I overreached? Was my confidence just wounded pride pushing me toward inevitable failure? I was still sitting there when Grace called again. Can you talk? She asked. Not on the phone. In person. We met at a quiet bar far from the office. Grace looked nervous, glancing around as if expecting to be followed. "They're not taking this lying down," she said after ordering a drink. "They've called an emergency management meeting for tomorrow morning. I heard your boss telling Emma they need to contain the Ashley situation at all costs." "What does that mean exactly?" Grace leaned closer. "They're planning to offer your clients double what you're charging to bring them back. They'll operate at a loss if necessary just to bankrupt you before you can establish yourself." My confidence wavered. I couldn't possibly match that kind of financial flexibility. "There's more," Grace continued. "They're gathering evidence that you stole confidential information. It's ridiculous, but they're desperate. I didn't take anything that wasn't directly related to my own work," I insisted. "I know that," Grace said. "But they're building a narrative, and narratives can be powerful, especially with the right attorneys behind them." As I walked home that night, doubt grew like a shadow at sunset. What had seemed like a perfect plan suddenly felt precarious. I was one person against an established company with resources, connections, and desperation, a dangerous combination. The next morning, reality hit harder. My phone rang with the first crisis. Ocean View Properties needed immediate revisions to their summer campaign. An hour later, Philip called about an unexpected competitor undercutting his rates. By noon, 3 more clients had urgent needs that couldn't wait. I worked through lunch, dinner, and well past midnight. The same the next day, and the next. I was drowning in the very success I'd orchestrated. A week into my new venture, I received an email from a law firm representing my former company. Attached was a cease and desist letter claiming I had misappropriated confidential information and violated non-solicitation agreements. It was baseless. I'd been meticulously careful, but fighting it would require time and money I couldn't spare while servicing 6 demanding clients. That same day, Emma posted a company announcement on social media, excited to announce our new client loyalty program offering unprecedented benefits to our valued partners. It was clearly aimed at wooing back the clients I'd taken. 2 weeks in, I was operating on 4 hours of sleep a night. My apartment had transformed into a chaotic office with papers covering every surface. I hadn't cooked a meal or done laundry. Basic self-care had become a luxury I couldn't afford. Then came the first defection. Mary Jang called on a Friday afternoon. "Ashley, I need to speak with you about our arrangement." My heart sank. I knew that tone. "Your former company reached out," she continued. "They're offering a comprehensive package that includes digital marketing, PR, and event management at a significantly reduced rate, with my budget constraints. They're buying your business at a loss," I said, trying to keep frustration from my voice. "Once I'm out of the picture, those rates will skyrocket." "Perhaps," she acknowledged, "but I have shareholders to answer to now. I can't justify paying more for less, even if I prefer working with you." After we hung up, I sat motionless at my makeshift desk, one down. How long before the others followed? My phone buzzed with a text from my former boss. "Heard about Ocean View. The offer to come back is still open. Corner office. Significant raise. Your own parking spot." I didn't respond, but doubt crept in like a virus. Maybe this had been a mistake. Maybe corporate politics would always win. Maybe I should cut my losses before I crashed and burned. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., I pulled out the Starbucks gift card that had started it all. $100, the supposed value of my contribution. Anger rekindled, pushing back against doubt. I hadn't come this far to surrender at the first setback. The next morning, I called Philip. "I need advice," I admitted. "Mary's gone back to my former company." "I know," he said. "They called me too." My stomach tightened, and I told them to take their offer and shove it someplace uncomfortable. He chuckled. "Ashley, did you really think we'd all jump ship because they're temporarily slashing prices?" "You have a business to run," I said. "It would make financial sense. Short term, perhaps. But I've been in business 30 years. I know a desperate play when I see one. More importantly, I know talent when I see it. The work you did for us increased bookings by 40%. That's worth a premium." In Stander, relief washed over me. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet," he cautioned. "They're scared, which makes them dangerous. And you still have a fundamental problem. You can't do this alone." He was right. I needed help, but hiring staff required capital I didn't have. It was a classic catch-22. "What would you suggest?" I asked. "Strategic partnerships," he replied without hesitation. Not employees, but other independent professionals who complement your skills. Split projects, not overhead. It was so obvious, I wondered why I hadn't thought of it myself. Probably because I hadn't slept properly in weeks. That afternoon, I reached out to 3 former colleagues who had left the company before me. A financial wizard who'd quit after being repeatedly passed over for promotion. A creative director who'd been pushed out for not being a team player when she questioned unethical practices. A digital strategist who'd left to freelance. All 3 agreed to meet. All 3 had stories similar to mine. All 3 had skills I desperately needed. By the end of the week, we had formed an informal collective, independent professionals, who could collaborate on projects without the overhead of a traditional agency. We created a shared workspace in a converted warehouse that cost a fraction of downtown rent. When my former boss called again, I didn't feel the same uncertainty. "Heard you're bringing in reinforcements," he said, attempting casual but failing to hide his concern. "Interesting strategy. Just adapting to client needs," I replied. "Those independent contractors will leave you the moment something better comes along," he warned. "They have no loyalty." "Perhaps," I acknowledged. "But then, loyalty seems to be in short supply these days, doesn't it?" And he changed tactics. "This has gone far enough, Ashley. We're preparing legal action. Last chance to come back and avoid an ugly situation. Read Section 12, I reminded him. "And while you're at it, check the client ownership clauses. You might find them educational." I hung up feeling stronger than I had in weeks. He was bluffing about legal action. My former company's own contracts were ironically my best protection. They were so focused on protecting the company from employees that they'd never considered the reverse. 3 months in, we weren't just surviving, we were thriving. My collective had grown to 7 independent professionals. We'd implemented Philip's strategy of profit sharing rather than traditional salaries, creating a team where everyone was personally invested in success. Even better, 2 new luxury clients had approached us after hearing about our work. Word was spreading, but my former company wasn't finished. They launched a whisper campaign, suggesting to industry contacts that I was unstable, vindictive, impossible to work with. They hinted at pending litigation. They implied I'd stolen proprietary information. Some potential clients were scared off. One existing client called to express concern. "Is there any truth to these rumors?" he asked directly. "None," I assured him. "They're desperate attempts to discredit me because they can't compete on results." He seemed satisfied, but the damage was being done. Doubt is a powerful weapon in business relationships. 4 months in, Grace called with a warning. "They're planning something big," she said. "Your boss has been in closed-door meetings with legal all week. Emma's involved too. Can you find out what it is?" "I'm trying, but they're being unusually secretive. Whatever it is, they think it's their silver bullet." I thanked her and tried to push the worry aside. I had clients to serve, projects to complete, a business to build. Then came the email that changed everything. It was from an unfamiliar address, but the subject line froze my blood. "Evidence you might find useful." I almost deleted it as spam. Thank goodness I didn't. Inside was a simple message. "Thought you should see what they're planning. I can't stand by anymore." Attached were screenshots of internal emails between my former boss, Emma, and the company's legal team. As I read them, my hands began to shake, not with fear, but with something much more powerful. Anticipation. Because in those emails was everything I needed, everything I couldn't have planned for, everything that would transform my revenge from satisfying to legendary. And they had no idea it was coming. The attached emails were a goldmine of incriminating information. My former boss and Emma had been systematically defrauding the company for years. Email after email detailed how Emma had created fake expense reports, claiming client dinners that never happened, travel that never occurred, and team-building events that were actually personal shopping sprees. My former boss had approved every fraudulent claim, while simultaneously denying legitimate expenses from other team members. But that was just the beginning. There were emails discussing how they'd been artificially inflating client invoices, then directing the excess funds to a separate account they controlled. Small amounts from each client, adding up to hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. Most damning of all were the emails about the Wellington campaign, MI campaign. Not only had they taken credit for my work, but they'd also altered the performance reports to minimize my contribution while exaggerating their own. "Make sure A's name is buried in the appendix," my boss had written. Keep her visible enough to do the work, but invisible enough that clients associate success with our leadership. Emma's response, already on it, also deleted her from the presentation attendee list, so there's no record she was even there. As I scrolled through file after file, a strange calm settled over me. This wasn't just about a Tesla versus a gift card anymore. This was about systematic fraud, deception, and theft. Not just from me, but from the company itself. The final email in the thread was from yesterday. Legal thinks we have enough to shut her down permanently. The lawsuit goes out tomorrow. We'll claim she stole client information, violated non-compete clauses, and engaged in unfair business practices. Even if we lose eventually, the legal fees will bankrupt her before it ever gets to court. Set up a call with the remaining clients to let them know their trusted advisor is facing criminal charges. At the bottom of the email was a simple signature. It had to be Jasmine, the quiet IT specialist who had always been friendly but kept to herself. I'd helped her once when she was overwhelmed with a project, staying late 3 nights in a row to meet her deadline. I'd forgotten about it. She clearly hadn't. I printed everything, made digital backups, and then considered my options carefully. This wasn't a moment for rash decisions. I could go straight to the police. That would certainly cause problems for my former boss and Emma, but it might also drag the entire company down, including innocent employees like Grace. I could use it as leverage, threatening to expose them unless they backed off. But blackmail, even when you're in the right, is legally and ethically questionable. Or I could be smarter, more strategic. Use this information not just to protect myself, but to build something lasting. I chose the third option. First, I called my small team together and explained the situation. I shared the emails but redacted the parts that could identify who sent them. This changes everything, said Tomas, our financial expert. With this evidence, we could not only stop their lawsuit but countersue for defamation and tortious interference. We could, I agreed, but I have something better in mind. My plan was simple but effective. We would continue building our business, ignoring the threats. When they filed their lawsuit I had knew was coming any day, we would be ready with a response that would blindside them completely. In the meantime, we needed to solidify our client relationships and expand our team. I reached out to 2 more former colleagues who'd been marginalized at the company. Amina, a brilliant media buyer who'd been repeatedly passed over for promotion because she was too quiet, and Daniel, a client relations specialist who'd quit after being blamed for a mistake Emma had made. With a team of 9 independent professionals, we could now handle twice the workload. We signed confidentiality agreements among ourselves and created a formal operating agreement for our collective. We were no longer just a temporary alliance. We were becoming a real company. 2 days later, it happened. A courier delivered a thick envelope containing a lawsuit, naming me as defendant in a case alleging theft of confidential information, client poaching, and unfair business practices. I called our attorney, a friend from college who specialized in business litigation. She reviewed the complaint and the evidence I'd received. They have no idea what's coming, do they? She said with a smile in her voice. Not a clue, I confirmed. We prepared our response carefully, making sure every detail was perfect. When the day came to file it with the court, I asked to deliver it personally. I wanted to see their faces. Their law firm occupied 3 floors of a downtown high-rise. I wore my most professional outfit and carried a sleek leather portfolio containing our response to their lawsuit. The receptionist directed me to a conference room where my former boss, Emma, and 2 attorneys waited. My former boss looked smug. Emma examined her nails, barely acknowledging my presence. Ms. Porter, one of the attorneys began, I understand you wanted to discuss settling this matter. Not exactly, I replied, opening my portfolio. I'm here to deliver our formal response to your complaint. I slid copies across the table to each of them. You could have had your attorney do this, my former boss said, with a dismissive wave. I wanted to watch you read it, I said simply. Their attorney opened the document first, scanning the introduction. His expression remained neutral until he reached page 3. Then his eyebrows shot up. He flipped through the next several pages rapidly, his face growing increasingly concerned. What is it? My former boss demanded. Sir, I think we should discuss this privately, the attorney said quietly. Just tell me, he snapped. The attorney cleared his throat. They've filed a countersuit for fraud, embezzlement, defamation, harassment, and there's evidence attached. Emails. Financial records. My former boss grabbed the document, his face reddening as he read. Emma leaned over his shoulder, her complexion turning ashen. "Where did you get these?" she whispered. "Let's just say not everyone at your company appreciates being associated with fraud," I replied. "Our filing includes copies to the district attorney's office, the state attorney general, and the Securities and Exchange Commission, since your company is publicly traded." The second attorney, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "We should adjourn this meeting immediately." "One more thing," I said, placing another document on the table. "This is a press release going out tomorrow morning, announcing that my company has been awarded a contract with the Wellington Hotel Group to manage all 7 of their properties worldwide. Philip Henderson personally recommended us after the success of our previous campaign." I stood to leave, pausing at the door. "Oh, and we're hiring. Several positions just opened up at our firm. I believe you'll be needing new jobs very soon." The aftermath unfolded exactly as I'd anticipated. The lawsuit against me was withdrawn by the end of the day. Within a week, both my former boss and Emma were placed on administrative leave pending investigation. 3 weeks later, they were fired for cause. No severance, no references, no golden parachutes. The company's board reached out to me directly, asking for a meeting. I agreed, but on my terms. The meeting would be at my office, not theirs. When the day arrived, 3 board members entered our converted warehouse space. They looked out of place among our modern, minimalist decor and collaborative workspace. No corner offices here, no status symbols, just smart people doing exceptional work. "Impressive operation," the board chair said, looking around. "You've built this in just 5 months? When you focus on talent instead of appearances, it's amazing what you can accomplish," I replied. They'd come with an offer. They wanted to acquire my company, rolling our team and clients back into their organization. They promised autonomy, resources, and recognition. "We've recognized the cultural issues that led to your departure," the chair explained. "We're committed to restructuring." "For what amount?" I asked. The number they suggested was substantial, enough that I could have retired comfortably at 32. "I appreciate the offer," I said after pretending to consider it, "but we're not for sale." They looked genuinely surprised. "May I ask why not?" I gestured around the room where my team was working. "Because we're building something based on values your company never understood. Fairness, transparency, and genuine appreciation for talent. We're proving you don't need fancy offices or company cars to deliver exceptional results. Just good people, treated well." "We could offer more," another board member suggested. "It's not about the money," I said. It never was. After they left, my team gathered around. We'd all heard the offer. We'd all heard me decline what would have been life-changing money for each of us. "Are you sure?" Tomas asked. "That was a serious offer." I nodded. "We're just getting started. In a year, they'll wish they'd offered twice as much." He smiled. "Then, I guess we better get back to work." 6 months later, we moved into a new office. Not downtown, but in a renovated industrial building with abundant natural light, collaborative spaces, and a rooftop garden. Every team member had contributed to the design, creating a space that reflected our values. On our first day in the new space, I gathered everyone together. We'd grown to 17 team members, all working on a profit-sharing model that meant everyone had skin in the game. "I have something to show you," I said, unveiling a framed object on the wall. It was the Starbucks gift card, mounted against a background of black velvet. Beneath it was a small brass plate engraved with the words, "Know Your Worth." Grace, who had joined us 3 months earlier after my former company downsized her department, raised her glass of champagne. "To knowing your worth." "And to coffee," Tomas added with a grin, which, ironically, this card has never purchased. Everyone laughed. I looked around at these talented people who had taken a chance on a new vision, who had trusted me when I asked them to turn down acquisition offers and keep building. And I felt something more satisfying than revenge: vindication. I still check industry news occasionally. My former boss now works at a much smaller agency in a junior position. Apparently, fraud allegations make finding executive jobs difficult. Emma tried to start her own consulting business but couldn't attract clients. Last I heard, she had to sell the Tesla to cover legal fees. As for me, I drive a practical hybrid, not because I can't afford better, but because I'd rather invest in the people who make our success possible. We now have a program that helps team members buy homes, providing interest-free loans for down payments. We offer 6 months of paid parental leave. We close the office for 2 weeks each year so everyone can truly disconnect. Our client list has tripled. Our revenue has quadrupled. And every new team member gets the same tour I give prospective clients, ending at the framed gift card. What's the story there? They inevitably ask. Just a reminder, I always reply. Sometimes being undervalued is the universe telling you it's time to value yourself. And Deska Spadev, if you've ever been overlooked, underpaid, or unappreciated, remember this. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's inability to see your value. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting ahead, building something better, and bringing good people along with you. Drop a comment if you've ever had a boss who didn't appreciate you. Like this video if you found your own way to succeed despite the doubters. And subscribe for more stories about turning life's disappointments into your greatest opportunities. Because the best comebacks aren't just about proving others wrong, they're about proving yourself right.